Hi, right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and demonstrate to you what happens when you access the internet at school. Okay. So let's say that you're in the classroom here and you go to the www.google.com. So when you put that into your device, the first thing that happens is your browser changes www.google.com to an IP address, and that's called the DNS, all right? That's the domain name service. And it asks the network, okay, what is www.google.com? And it changes it into an IP address, which might be 192.157.5.4.3, whatever, just whatever that number is. So the way that works is the first thing that happens is when you make that request, it turns it into the little envelope that we were talking about last week. All right, so folds it up into a layer in an envelope and sends it away. So that's called encapsulation, and what it is sending is a packet. And it sends that packet up here to this box via Wi-Fi, via the radio waves that we spoke about, into this little Cisco box up on the wall. Now that Cisco box, if you have a look at the Ethernet connection number 29, right, is connected to something called a switch. And a switch is basically something that manages all the traffic that is in a room. So this switch has all these computers in here connected to it, all right? Every single computer in here with its Ethernet, right, in the wall there, that all connects to the switch. And the switch is located in this room. So I'll just open this room up so you can have a look at the switch. So we've got our encapsulated packet, travels through the wall, well, travels through Wi-Fi to the hub up there, which is then traveling through the wall as little light things, little light pulses, and those light pulses travel to here, to this thing called the switch. I'm going to have to stand on this chair here, but I've got a sore knee. So this is the first switch. Alright, now if you have a look at all those cables that are going in and out of there and all the lights flickering and everything, it looks a bit spacey. And all these Ethernet cables are the connections from the computers and from that Wi-Fi hub. And now what the switch does, the switch works out who's who on the network, and it works out that by using something called a MAC address, okay? I'll talk about MAC addresses a little bit later, but every computer and every device has something called a MAC address, and this switch here reads that MAC address. It needs to know how to get back to you, because you see there are so many computers connected to this switch, right, that it would be impossible to determine who you are without having something that identifies you, which is called a MAC address. So in that little packet, your MAC address is sent to this switch, okay? And it remembers where you are on the network. Now, I forget what number we said that the Wi-Fi was. I think it was 29, and it's plugged in there somewhere. But because the school's network is so big, right, we have to have, oh, my knee, lots and lots of, like a little old man, lots and lots of switches, okay? So that switch connects to another switch via the cables through the walls, and that switch is down this way. Let's go have a look at that. We'll have a little look in this uniform room and see if we can locate that switch. Alright, it's not there. Aha! I can see it. So it's up there. Now, lucky I've got a big stick, right? So I can just put you up there so you can see. Now, that is a bigger switch. And that will send us to somewhere. So all of the other networks, right? All the other computers from A12 and all the other rooms and all the other Wi-Fi hubs connect to this bigger switch, right? So you've got your little switch and you've got your big switch. So we've gone from the Wi-Fi hub to the little switch, and then from the little switch we've gone to the big switch. Right. Our light has to travel once again through the walls, and this is all happening in the blink of an eye, right? our light has to travel through all these walls this way. Here we go, we've got an imposter on our video. Now, it goes from the big switch to something called the gateway. And the gateway is located somewhere near my staff room. Hello.
Bless you, my son.
We're learning about networks, and we're looking at the school network. Now, I assume that the gateway... Hi, Miss Valentine, how are you?
This is Kelly.
Yes, now, I'm assuming it's here. I've teed up with Kevin, the IT guy, to open up this room, which there he is, and look at that. I said 220, and he turned up exactly 220. Here we are. Whoa, this is huge.
It is.
Okay, so this is the gateway. It smells like rubber, like burning rubber, doesn't it? So this is, which part is the actual gateway? Like, so we've got all our computers here, like the server and all that. Which other gateway is?
So the distribution switch is in that rack.
Okay, so the big switch that we looked at in the other room, in the uniform room, that comes to this huge rack here.
Right.
Yeah, so that's every single computer and everything in the school
Yes.
connects to this specific one. Okay, great.
So you're not getting out.
Yep.
And that's the one.
Oh, so that's our router there.
Yeah.
Okay, so all that huge big mountain of cables and servers and switches turns into just this little
In order to getting out.
one here to
Yep.
get out. And so what speed is the internet coming into our school at these days?
So we just recently is actually operating the speed from 100 up and down, upload and downloads to 200
Okay,
because of the that very short resource.
so if we've only got 200 megabits and we've got 700 students, so we're looking at not many megabits per student if they're all on at the same time. Yeah.
Yes.
So remember we were talking about bandwidth. Well, the bandwidth that's coming into the school is 200 megabits. All right. So if there's more than 700, 1,200 of you, you've all got to share that 200 megabits. All right, because that's the maximum bandwidth that we're getting into our school. So that's why your internet slows down sometimes when a lot of people are on the network.
That's correct. So we're using some trade like cache server or proxy server to manage the traffic.
Yep.
So if you just go down, we'll distribute some workload.
So when he talks about the cache server, I assume that you're talking about websites, parts of websites that are stored on computers and that so that we can access them without the internet, like parts of, is that
Yeah,
what
the frequent requests, which is, for example,
Compass?
Compass or Google, that sort of request doesn't have to be go out every time.
Yep.
To respond from the next hop.
Okay. Yep.
So for quick response, we just use the cache server, which is save us to massive bandwidth and the only unique request that we require, and then we can actually.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's what we've got here. So this is our big switch, our router, and that takes us all the way out into the internet world where it goes to the data center that we spoke about, right? And then from the data center it goes to the other data center if it's coming from across the world through the things in the ocean, and then it will come back to us. Right, so those switches are obviously not the only switches that we have in the school that I showed you earlier from our classroom. We go to all of the rooms, you see each one has a Wi-Fi hub in it, which obviously connects to a switch. Yeah, so anyway, you get the idea that the school is connected to multiple switches, right? Everywhere, all around the school. There would be, well, how many did we have just on that little part of A block. There was 2 there. So if you have a look at the rest of the school, 2 here, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So you can imagine how many switches come back into that server room that we just had a little look in. But yeah, so I'll explain next week a little bit more about the actual process behind how that works. So in regards to, when it's broken down, what it looks like, how the router understands everything, and how the encapsulation process works. But basically, what you need to just remember today is that networks, places like this, big schools, right? They have, switches and hubs and routers. Okay, they don't just go, straight out as you would at home. When we're talking about at home, your phone goes over radio waves straight to your router. But in these places, the trip to that router is quite far and quite complex. So yeah, thanks for watching, and there'll be a Google form with some questions for you to answer about what you've seen today, and I look forward to showing you next week a little bit more about how networks work.